It was so cool, like really. I saw like this beautiful sunset with the sea. It was gorgeous. It was beyond comparison. Like it was like blues and pinks, and it was just gorgeous to see. And then I was standing there, and it's like I motioned my arms forward, and there was like a line that cleared. Like the seas sort of parted, and there was a line that cleared there. It was like a water slide, and there was like a hole at the end. So obviously there's like water going through it. And I was asking Dad, what did he mean by this? Like, what did he want to say with all of this? And he was like, he didn't really say anything, but the vision was still there. I was trying so hard to understand what I was seeing, and then all of a sudden I decided to say, you know what, Dad, no matter what it is, I will surrender. And it's like, the end that I was standing at, the water, it just like, the turret, it just like exploded. It was a huge turn of water. It just like spewed out of it and went to the other end. And then I understood, it's like the vision expanded. And what I thought at first was the horizon was actually a dam. And the little like port at the end, that was water coming through that dam. And then when I decided to surrender to Dad, it became apparent, well, obviously more water came through it. And then I finally understood what he was saying. All of the water that was there before is the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, and what is available to you, the unending quantity of like all that power that he wants to give to you, all that power that he just wants to like use you within or whatever. And then it's like when I motioned my arms forward, it was like me deciding how much of that water, how much of that Spirit I actually wanted to use. And then when I finally decided to submit to my dad and my father and say, you know what, Dad, I don't care anymore, do whatever you want to do with me, he just exploded in me. He just erupted. It's so cool. In that moment when I said, hey, I want you to do what you want to do with me, it's like he said, finally, boom, the waters just overflowed. They just could not be contained anymore by that tiny water slide. It had to go over the dam. Oh my goodness, it is literal overflow. Do you all understand what I'm saying? When we submit to Dad himself, he will do crazy things beyond our own imagination. He will break down the walls that we will use to box him in with. When we give to him the thing we think we have to hold on to ourselves, he will take that seed and turn it into a rose. He will take that seed and turn it into an oak tree. He will do with it what it needs to be done. Just believe. Give that to him.
Oh, my children, and come to my river and drink in my spirit and rest in my presence. Oh, my children, come to the river, taste in my spirit. believe in you. You're the God of miracles. Yeah, I believe in you. I believe in you. You're the God of miracles. The one who does impossible is reaching out to make me whole, reaching out to make me whole. The one who put death in its place. His life is flowing through my veins. His life is flowing through my veins. And I believe in you. I believe in you. You're the God of miracles. Yeah. I believe in you. I believe in you. You're the God of miracles. Yeah. I believe in you. I believe in you. You're the God of miracles. I believe in you. I believe in you. You're the God of the God who was and is to come, the power of the risen one, the God who brings the dead to life. You're the God of miracles, the God of miracles, the God who was and is to come, the power of the risen one.
I cannot stop seeing the flame of the Lord. It's the whitest, brightest, hottest flame. And it's burning in our hearts. And it's a vehement flame. It's his jealous love. And it is consuming. But very specifically, the Holy Spirit was saying that there are some that feel tainted by human love, worldly love. And they feel stained and they're bearing pain. And I see this fire, this flame of God's love. It's so holy. It's such a holy love. And it's so pure. And it's so perfect. And it's purifying. And it's healing the memories and the pain. And it's totally consuming the stain, so that the Lord does not see you with any spot or wrinkle from anything in the past, any experience, any relationship, any way you've been touched by love that wasn't the holy love of God. Even if it was human love and the best it could be, there was something in there that some feel that they've been tainted and they've been stained and they're somehow not acceptable in the beloved, in the eyes of the beloved. And he is saying, and I see this fire burning like this flame. It's more jealous than the grave. It's so vehement. And the Lord is healing right now, and some don't even remember. Some don't even have memories, and it's going into places and spaces way back in your life. Some just yesterday, some over a decade ago. And this flame is consuming, and it is pure, holy, perfect love. And it is totally consuming you. It is totally healing you. It is totally freeing you. And the Lord says, I want you to know, beloved, my bride, my child, my son, I do not see any spot or wrinkle in you. I only see through the eyes of my pure, holy, perfect love. And you are perfect to me. You are perfect in me. You are perfect because of my love consuming you.
Deeper, dia do takan dia da pasha. I'll put you in front of my melody. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. I'll make room for two. You and I, Jesus. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. Oh, hey, oh. You are all that matters. Oh, hey, oh. You are all that matters. Oh, hey, oh, hey. You are all that matters. Nanya mana sasa. What would I live for if I don't have you in my life? What would I gain if you take the whole? You are all that matters. You are all that matters. Hey, I'll put you in front of my melody. You are all that matters. I'll make room for two. You and I, Jesus. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. Is it the house or is it the car? I'll give them all to you. Is it the name or is it the fame? I'm nothing without you. didn't see your light, what would have been said of me if you didn't hold my hand? Now I've come to realize that you were all I had. You were all that matters. I'll put you in front of my melody. You are all that matters. I just believe us in the house tonight. I'll make room for two. You and I, Jesus. You are all that matters. You are all that matters. Oh, you are all that matters, Jesus. I wish I could hear you sing it out. Oh, well, oh, well, oh, well, oh. You are all that matters. If it matters to you tonight, can you lift up those hands and speak in other tongues and blast in other tongues as you worship the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the one who made all things new, the one who made it possible for us to be here today. Jesus. Can you lift up your hands and begin to speak in other tongues tonight? I wish you can say things, mystical things to God tonight. Tell him that is all that matters to you. Tell him that silver or gold cannot take his place. Tell him sweet things tonight. I thank God for those who are worshiping. Open up your mouth to Jesus. Open up your mouth and lift up your voice. I want to hear people tonight who are ready to take the name of Jesus.
hope you are keeping safe and that you're ready for another exciting episode in the health and wellness series. We've run several over the last few weeks, every Saturday at about 11 a.m. in the morning. It's been an interesting journey, and I think we're about to hit the peak of this series. So I'd like you to just sit back, relax, and enjoy what we're going to present to you this morning. Today's track is a special one. It's called the Entrepreneurship Series. And over the next few odd episodes, we're going to be standing on the back of men, great men, successful men, across several different industries who have done well for themselves. You know, it's important oftentimes to stand on the shoulders of those who have gone ahead so that you can see much further ahead. And so in this series, we're going to be talking to and trying to drill down into the lives, the times, the character, and the influences of several different entrepreneurs. So I'd like you to sit tight. I'd like you to take notes if you want to take notes. But I think it will be a deep learning experience, and I think you're going to enjoy it. In case you want to send in questions, perhaps you have comments, you can send us a WhatsApp or actually even call in the course of this show. The numbers to call, or the number to call, is 0817 578 5454. That's 0817 758 5454. My guest today is someone that I know and respect, and he is Tunde Odumosu. He's the CEO of Open Learning Associates. They are an AV ICT equipment provider. They're situated at number 111, that's 111. That's a nice, easy place to locate, Allen Avenue in Ikeja. The offices are located with headquarters in Lagos, but they have branches in Port Harcourt and in Abuja. And so we're going to be standing on his shoulders during this episode. And I've always realized that oftentimes the men and the women that we see successful in their endeavors have a lot of foundations. And so I'm intrigued when talking to great men to find out how they were forged. What happened in those early days in the making of the foundation? How did all of that happen? And how did that influence the success that we see them now with? So I'm going to ask you to go back a little bit. And I'd like you to take a look at this photo and tell us when and where it was taken. It's a really interesting photo. And I'm sure that by the time you take a look at it, you have lots of stories to tell. But just take a look at this photo and tell us what you think. So, I'm sure you can recognize yourself.
Wow. Yeah. I'm standing by the lower, yes, on the right, my right. Oh, that's a good one.
Where was this?
Well, I believe this would be as early as 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, I wasn't really conscious of when it was taken. I only saw it in the archives, and I was amused. And looking at the way I dressed, no shoes, amazing. And trying to recognize a lot of people there who are grown-ups now. Some are gone. It's really exciting to see such historic photograph. But I can recognize myself.
Okay, that's interesting. So you didn't find it hard to recognize that that was you?
Because when I saw the setup, seeing the setup tells you, the makeup. I can recognize a lot of people in there.
So were they your family? Were they
They were,
friends?
my extended family members,
Okay.
like cousins, nephews, and my siblings too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how you grew up, your experiences as a young, growing child.
Well, I thank God for that. Growing up, I still have to pick from, from my education. The education, because that is easier for me.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't have the privilege of going to a full secondary school. For some reasons, but I attended the commercial school. I was longing to, be a graduate. So I took it upon myself, of course, the determination, and breathed on by the grace of God to read on my own. I read for GCE. I read through all these correspondence colleges in the past, Wolsey College, Metropolitan College, to do GCE. And I thank God it was fine. That really encouraged me to move on. Then I went to a school in Cross River State, School of Accountants and Business Studies.
Sorry, let me pull you back.
Okay.
You need to create location. So
Okay.
Where did you start your primary school, for instance?
Okay, that's true. I started my primary school in Kene, St. Saviour's Primary School in Kene.
Okay, cool.
Then I went to
Commercial
local
college.
authority secondary school as a commercial school in Ikene. I said I didn't have the privilege of going to full-fledged, so
yeah.
I finished as more than 3 or commercial 4. But after that, I was just longing to, to move on. So that inspired me to go into studying outside the box, using correspondence colleges to do GCE. But to God be the glory, I was successful, and I decided to move forward again. That was at the point at which I sought an admission to School of Accountants and Business Studies.
All the way.
Yeah, all the way, yeah. From Lagos, I got an admission because I discovered that was the clue to fulfill my ambition.
Once you're afraid, what were the challenges of moving out of your comfort zone? So to say?
You understand, my parents too were very, very concerned, but they know because of the zeal inside of me, they didn't find it difficult to give in. So I spent 2 years there, did the level, I got certificate in business studies, and with that I was able to apply for admission into the University of Lagos. It wasn't an easy decision. Some things happened along the line. I wanted to travel and a lot of stories, but men, you don't put reliance on men. It's always God. So I prayed to God. God spoke to me. I needed the second option. So while they were planning the abroad issue, I now secretly applied, for admission into the University of Lagos. Secretly, because I knew something was going to happen. So at the tail end, the issue of traveling came to be a dream unfulfilled.
Oh.
So, and with the option 2 I had, God gave me that grace. And I wanted to read accounting really, but that's God's plan. The accounting was my first choice.
Right.
Business admin was my second choice. But eventually I got the second choice, business admin.
I see.
So, yeah, that was just it. That was just it. From, let me just, my makeup.
Right.
In terms of education.
I've always realized that growing up, there are lots of influences in life.
Yeah.
And parental influences are often what creates the character of many of us. So
Yeah.
how did your father in particular, or perhaps your mother, influence the kind of person
Yeah.
that you have turned out to be?
Thank you very much. You know, my parents were, well, illiterate. But my dad, when I say illiterate, you know, in the context of now, I think as somebody that went to secondary school, I think my dad was like maybe class 3 or 4 before he left. But my mom was, I mean, my mom is an illiterate. My mom is still alive, is an illiterate. But on the line, when they saw the seal inside of me, I could remember my dad used to say some things which actually inspired me. He would come up with like a saying that says, education is like, you know, it's like water yam. Okay. If you don't eat it sufficiently, you won't succeed. If you don't eat it sufficiently, you won't succeed. It didn't really, you know, there's some preliminary, there was some words you hear that you don't really understand it. But later on, I discovered that when I got that admission, my dad sold his most cherished, we call it, it's a bike, white rally bike. Surprisingly, he so cherished it that we watch the bicycle like 3 times in a day. When he rides on it, like he's on a Rolls Royce. But when I got that admission, because it wasn't really easy, you know, had to struggle so hard. My dad sold that bike to pay for my school fees. And from my mom's side, my mom was like, he will also come up with, you know, some words of encouragement. You know, he will come, each time there are issues, he will tell me that she knows that I mean, having through the walls of education will not be an easy ride, but she foresaw that along the line there will be some challenges. And he said, listen, there will come to a time that men will spread their tentacles, but there will come a time when they will remove the carpets, unknown to you, but God will spread his own rug. I was like, what is this all about? My mom will sit down and say, as long as she can confess that this breast fed me, that he has a prophetic declaration unto my life, that no matter what the challenges of life, by the grace of God, I will travel. And that door was just it, and it worked for me.
Those are amazing stories.
Very, very amazing. It worked for me. And maybe because I know you have other questions, I know I don't want to cross.
I'm totally amazed by that. I mean, so your father, I mean, that singular action of selling his, like you said, his Rolls Royce.
Yeah, Rolls Royce at that time, most cherished.
Must have had such an amazing impact on your life.
It was like, I didn't believe it, but it happened. And that really inspired me again. Yes, I'm a child of destiny. I'm sure something good is going to happen.
You have amazing parents. I mean, for your mother to say categorically that despite the challenges of life, you will succeed.
It was like a prophetic declaration. And events began to unfold when I was getting older. After the university days, while I was working, one thing, I give glory to God, but my mom is still living now. She's about 96 years.
Wow.
And I'm coveting the grace of God upon her life, that it will, at least, it'll be 100 years old.
Amen.
By the grace of God.
Amen. Fantastic. Wow, so obviously parents are a key influence in our lives, and clearly influence whether we succeed or we don't. Yeah. And I think it's really important as parents that this example is something that, you know, we obviously should emulate.
Yeah, but okay, there are some things that my mom, I mean, my dad and mom say most of the time, at times say, remember the son of who you are,
Yeah.
you know, and that looks very common. But then, you know, it will tell me good name is better than silver and gold,
Yeah.
you know, and they, you know, they use intermittently, you know, those words each time, you know, I have challenges. And other one that I can remember is that they always tell me that don't ply a road that you did not have the opportunity of plying during the day. Don't ply it in the night.
Wow.
So, say, a road that you want to pass, don't pass a road in the night if you have not passed through the same road
During the day.
during the day. I began to, you know, like I said, when events began to unfold, I'm going to read meaning into all these things. And until I said, this thing has something to do with John 9:4, which is, you know, it said, when the night cometh,
When no man can
no
walk.
man can walk. You have to put in everything that God has given unto you to do the best before night cometh.
Wow. That is a lesson.
A very big lesson.
That's a vital lesson.
Very big lesson.
Wow. I mean, I wish we could even just talk about that a lot more, but yes, there's still a lot to talk about.
Yes, definitely.
So, university, obviously here in Lagos, perhaps not the course that you really wanted to study. But I dare say that university is a place where many new ideas, many revelations, revolutions occur. What were your experiences, and particularly what were the influences, you know, that influenced, that guided you, you know, during those years?
Well, the truth is that I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I learned how to, by the grace of God, put all hard work into it, because my parents would tell me, without hard work, there's no success. So that's been, you know. So with that, I was like very desperate. I said, by God's grace, I should make it. So let me see, in terms of distraction, the issue of cultism was not in my dictionary at all. It wasn't really, it wasn't in my dictionary. Though I saw a lot of things when I was in university, Buchanans, the Eye, Kegite, and that was the time I made an attempt. I wanted to be a member of Kegite. I was just, in fact, they enlisted me, and I wanted to go in there. Yeah, I actually went in there, and we sat down, and immediately I entered. Mind you, I wasn't born again at that time. But I believe the Spirit of God was ministering unto me. This is the wrong place for you to be. They asked us to sit down. I sat down. You know, all this, you know, language that you have tail. You know, the tail have to be cut. I just came to my senses. I just excused myself and walked out. I just walked out, and I didn't return to that place again. That could have been, maybe, I wouldn't know, that could have been another thing for my life. But I thank God that by His Spirit, He ministered to me not to find myself amongst, you know, a bad group, so to say. But I wasn't really disposed to. No, it wasn't, because I always think about what my parents tell me, and I always look forward onto what God has promised to make me of. So I wasn't distracted at all.
You know, I'm going to ask a really simple answer. And you know, it's easy to just try and connect the dots between what your parents said, the character that they've given to you,
And following.
the fact that you obviously were focused, you definitely knew what you wanted to achieve, and when you don't have extra money to lead you into distractions, you can focus. But how do you tie that into the successes that you have experienced after university?
Well, after university days, well, one thing I actually, when I finished in 1983, and I worked for 2 years, and that initial inspiration came on board again, that I would like to have a business on my own. It wasn't an easy decision. 2 years, and towards the 3rd year, I resigned. And I went to my uncle that, he had been part of the story anyway. I went to him that I would like to have a private business of my own, and he actually encouraged me. That brought Open Learning Associates, and a lot of people will ask questions. What is Open Learning Associates? The intention is that making learning available to people, no matter the limitation. People can actually update knowledge anywhere they find themselves, in their places of work, at leisure, which is what is happening now. This issue of online, this and that, making training accessible to people. That was how we started. Even though that idea was mooted from a UK government program at that time, which was Open Learning. There were packages that were produced by notable companies for people, so that they don't leave their places of work before they actually update their knowledge.
Okay.
So I killed, my initiative from there, and that formed the name of the company at that time. And God really showed himself.
Okay, you know what? I'd like you to take us on a journey.
Okay.
So, 3rd year of work, you realized you wanted to do something better, something bigger, something that would impact people, and you decided to resign. You said that's not an easy decision, and I'm sure some of us have had to make this kind of a decision. Yes. Perhaps some of us are going to make this kind of a decision, but take us on a journey. Take us through, the experiences, and I'm sure there were highs, there were lows, there are all sorts of troughs. So
definitely,
I'm intrigued. I want to find out what happened.
Okay, the journey was very rough. It was. And when I say rough, you find when people talk of bumpy, a road is bumpy. Bumpy is either padded or potholes. Both potholes and padded, they showed in different forms. Well, to the glory of God, God used some people, members of my extended family, to provide the initial funding. I've learned so much that you don't put your life on track on men, but focus on God. It came to a time that what my mom prophesied, it came to a time that I would get some money from them, and they promised to return the money by agreement a particular day. But just along the line, they would just come up sometimes and say they needed that money. In fact, to create a worse scenario, because the members of the extended family, they went to my mom. They went to my mom to say that your child is not giving us the money at the right time and this and that. My mom sent for me. My mom told me that initially he said, if he wouldn't want problems for me, if Lagos is not a fertile ground for you, you had better come back home. She asked me to come. When I went to her and I narrated the whole story, he now brought forth that prophetic declaration again. And he told me that, you remember I told you, a time will come when people will show forth even beyond your wildest imagination. And that at that time, they will remove their carpet and God will put his own rug. So after narrating the story, my mom prayed for me. He said I should go back to Lagos. But to the glory of God, I was able to pay that money. But one striking thing that happened was that immediately, just after a few weeks, there was divine transformation. Divine transformation, the fact that God used my foreign suppliers, because at that time, it was better to visit than to communicate. So, and when they heard my story, God used them, and I have names, even though I've taken some pictures with some of them, that God used them as instrument to stand in for me, even when the credit rating of Nigeria was nothing to go about. They stood their ground. They committed themselves to be guarantors, and to the glory of God, up till now, they're still funding me. I do rely on bank facilities, but the greatest of all is that these people that God has brought my way will stand in for me based on sincerity of my heart, and they said because of integrity of purpose. Because day in, day out, I'm very, very always conscious to meet obligations. And the more I meet the obligations, the more they open more doors unto me. Up to today, most of them can actually beat their chest. Even across board, even where those goods will not come from. Even if the US or Canada, they will tell me, we can do that. We can help you in that. And like I said, I always meet obligations. God has so, gracious unto me that I meet those obligations. And I believe that has been a turning point in my life. And God has even, by his Holy Spirit, helped me to keep within that precepts, so that I won't disappoint God, neither will I disappoint, the people God has sent on my way to be instruments of favor.
Okay, I'm curious. AV ICT, what does that mean? And what's the business? Where is that business? I mean, I'm just curious.
Well, AV is audiovisual.
Okay.
And ICT, like is information, communication, and technology.
Okay.
Like I said, the initial, idea was to provide training. Actually, we were having lectures then in St. Finbarr's College here, inviting people after the close of work. They will come there. And a lot of companies decided to be sponsoring, their staff. To say, oh, you could do some work after and then you still get a certificate. And that was the way it started. From that point, because I work with, personnel managers, training managers, it began to unfold that we can have that. This idea that we can move your training to our place of work. Most of them decided to be having training schools. That those that did not have training school then, that in order to minimize time too,
right.
Now that you are making provision after normal work, we now move the training into our places of work. A couple of them at that time, that was the way we started. From there, of course, they say, who dictate the tune, who dictate the piper.
Right.
Immediately, some of them, when they make that decision, they will say, oh, then we need to have the gadgets as well.
Right.
To get things done. From training outside the office,
right.
The idea brought into the company, and then using us also as instrument to equip them.
Right.
And that is exactly where we are today. Going from school to school, God has so been faithful that LNG, yes, I'm able to say that, Shell, Corona schools, a host of them like that. Every year, God has given that grace because integrity, products quality, support all the time, and making sure that there's value for money. That has been the critical principle. And God has really been helping us so far.
I like that. I mean, I think it's important as businesses to be clear about what your value proposition is.
Yeah.
So I'd like us to just, I'd like you to say just a little bit more about value for money. That's not something that we get a lot of in this part of the world, sadly.
Yes.
And then add the fact that integrity is key. Delivering on your promises is something that is important.
Thank you. That's why value for money, it's like you keep your words. You don't just dump a product at the doorstep of your customer. You stand by them to make sure that you have support, to make sure that you are available. It's not until they have problems. You need to visit those companies as long as they are using your product to make sure that they have that value for money. There is much, investment into ICT is amazing. It's only very few institutions that will want to go into it because they're always scared of, spending. So if you buy, just like somebody that buys a product, you want to maintain it, and you hang on the integrity of the company maintaining it. They actually do what they are promised to do. So the more we do that, we follow them up until time they will say, we want to replace these things. You have to keep hold, you have to keep touch with your customer. Don't just stay aloof until they need you. We need them more than they need us. So we take ourselves to them and make sure we understand their problems and make sure that they are using those products to the best of their knowledge. And that has been the value-added advantage.
I'm glad you said value-added because oftentimes in business, the differentiating factors between one successful business and the many others is the fact that, and I think that's what you've just said, that there are certain values within your business, within your own ecosystem that you pass on to your customers and your clients. And obviously the approach is key to ensuring that there's customer satisfaction and that there is repeat purchases. And I'm saying this because, for many entrepreneurs and going into entrepreneurship, it's important to know what at the core your business offers. So it's not just the product. Obviously, customer service, customer support, a lifetime goal of what it is you're providing as a service is so key. So would you say that your customer support is one of the things that stands Open
Learning Association?
Yes.
Yeah.
Apart from everybody else?
Yes, I think it's a core value, and that makes us stand out because you always have to move on in business. You need to have reference points. You don't just put a beautiful catalog, and when people ask you who have used this product before, you must have the confidence to say, oh, we have contact points, so, and people do. They do make calls because we provide names, telephone numbers, to be sure. They interview them. For them to actually verify facts. Say that, oh, that's a very good company. They don't just sell a product, they support it, until, as long as you decide to change, to change the model or you want to change the brand. That has been the principle. And the truth is that it's a core value, and we use that, as a promotional I wouldn't say strategy, as a promotional proof that we have something to leverage upon. And that has worked very fine for us.
So, what I hear is that in the competitive landscape, it is important that you have obviously a track record where customers are not only sold products, but they're satisfied with the life of that product and the services that they give.
More so that in the world of today, there are a lot of brands around the corner. You have a good product. God has given you initiative to launch it. Before you know it, in the next 6 months, you see different brands, Chinese, blah, blah, blah. As long as, and you find some customers who will tell you, as long as, oh, this product can do the same thing, let's have a go. But Nemesis will also catch up with them because most of them, after a while, they'll still come back to the drawing board.
Right.
They'll say, oh, sorry, I understand some of our products, smart products, avatar products, and they'll say, oh, we knew of that, but we had all these other brands. And when we get to their premises, God has given us that grace. We'll go to their premises and change all the no names, and put the branded ones.
I'm curious, even though we've talked into it, here and there, how has God been, how has that God factor, how has that worked in and in the progress and obviously in where you are right now?
Well, I want to give glory to God for His enabling grace, and that is a big fact. You know, when God gives you grace, He empowers you, you know, divine empowerment. And how do you get to that? It's prayers. You know, there's nothing works, to me, nothing works by chance. You know, you have to pray it in. You have to pray it to the point of happening. And the more you pray about it, the more God gives you inspiration. And of course, don't forget, like my mom always say, don't forget the son of whom you are. A child of God will stand, will do something and make sure that you have testimony, because testimony too has value, you know. But the bottom line is just His grace, which has so much abound towards us. And you know, I used to tell people, I mentioned it, I said, even though we talk of some Nigerian factor, but our God is much more than that, you know. I always share, each time I have the privilege, I always share about grace with people. And I always quote Ephesians 4:7. I say, but grace was given to us, you know, according to His measure of Christ's gift. People have gifts, measure of grace. But then, you need the grace as a means of sustenance. I know, my God, that's why you find that in a particular place, when people when people covet the business of others, and you have 3 or 4 people selling the same product,
Right.
you still find that among those people, at least one of them, there will be a preference for one of them. So one of them, it must have enjoyed an abundant grace of God, which has really abounded towards us. God shows Himself in diverse ways, because the more you ask, He gives unto you. You don't just do things because you want to do it. You do it because you have a leading by the Holy Spirit. And that is something that money cannot buy. And that has really, you know, worked for us. And focusing on Christ too, you know, I said it, looking unto God as the author and finisher of our faith. I used to share with people, looking unto God. Don't look unto man. There's a difference between the author and finisher. The finisher there is a perfecter of your faith. If you rely on man, he will finish your faith. He will consume your faith. Man will consume your faith. But God is a perfecter of that faith, because you are focused on Him, believing in Him, that beside Him there's no other. So when men fail, it shouldn't come to you as a surprise.
Yeah.
Because some of flesh fail us. And you know, human beings will always the tendency to fail. It's only God that can do what man cannot do. And we don't compromise that. Prayer, manifestation of His grace, to His mercy, and to His favor. That is God for us. God for Open Learning Association. That is it.
That's interesting. So, I mean, I think it's important for entrepreneurs, and particularly Christian entrepreneurs, to balance the fact that you do have to work hard. You do have to have values that guide, you know, your operations. But you can't do that without the God factor. The God factor is key, is central, is what makes the difference.
Exactly.
And clearly, in a very competitive world, you need a competitive advantage, which the God factor probably is the only thing that can give you that advantage.
But you know, Psalm 37, 24 to 23 to 24, it says, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And it says, He delighted in His way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down. You know, that's why I said things don't happen just by chance. When God orders your steps, He will key into it and begin to see His touch at every facet of life, knowing sure that that same God is backing you up. And for a child of God, you mentioned God's impact, and because we have a restricted timing, I wouldn't want to go into how that has played because of challenges. Because business, like the risk factor is high. Risk factor, and that risk factor I'm talking about are enemies of progress in business. They show up in different forms. Are you going to talk about tax authorities? Are you going to talk about how businesses, orders are placed? You want to talk about people coming to you and say, he needs this thing. And that thing just disappeared. And only for somebody fictitious somewhere along the line will show up. And you still discover that the origin, you were once part of the origin of that product. You discover that many people will come. Why? It's still the same problem that you're talking of, corruption factor in Nigeria. Somebody knows the source of a product, but he will choose not to go there. And will choose to raise people to midwife along the line and create scenarios, unpalatable scenarios. But thank God for one thing, that brand. God has positioned our brand such that anywhere issues like that happen, they will still come to the drawing board. They will still come back to us. I think that's a story for another day. I hope I've not digressed too much.
No, I think the learnings from what you've just said are important. There's no business in Nigeria and clearly no enterprise that has started or will start that won't face all of those challenges. I think learning how to approach them from a Christian perspective is extremely important. And if we can arm our entrepreneurs with these skills and these insights, you know, before they start, or if they're in it already, I think it's critically important, and it's one of the things we definitely want to, you know, seek to do, you know, through this series. So I think it is important. So if you were to give advice for a next generation of entrepreneurs, it's important that they know these are the hurdles. In Nigeria, the business environment is risky. There is a corruption factor. There's so many hurdles that you must know how to cross. And it's critically important to try and teach them and to educate ourselves about what we should do, what we can do. And so if you're following us and you want to send in comments, or perhaps you want to call, maybe you have a question that you think, you know, we need to address. The numbers again are 0817-578-5454, and they're scrolling on your screens right about now. But there is another generation of young people who are about to go into the business of entrepreneurship in different sectors and different industries. They're going to face these same challenges.
Definitely.
If you're to give some advice, some candid advice, these are the foundational issues that as an entrepreneur you should know, things that you need to deal with, things that there's no way you can avoid. What advice would you give?
Thank you very much. The first point is prayer, because as Psalm 127 verse 1 said, unless the Lord builds the house, the builder does it in vain. You know, like I mentioned, you need guidance, and that guidance can only come from God. Gives inspiration. You pray about something. There are a lot of people outside there. Our young guys, I mean, that's what the Bible says, young men shall see vision. So, and it's already here. You know, they have social media to translate it to so many things. You pray for the leading of the Holy Spirit, and after God will give you vision. And once you get that vision is not to follow the crowd. The vision is for you to possess initiative, something that is yet to be done about that particular thing. You know, once you have that inspiration, you want to go into ICT, there's still some unexplored opportunities that you can actually think about and pray about, and God will grant you that initiative. And also, you know, there's no way you talk about, you still come back to talk about money, because but the truth is that faith without works, you know, there are a lot of things in terms of investment you got to put into it, but before getting there, you know that you need to do some feasibility. Once you have that vision, you do some feasibility on how practicable that thing could be. And of course, in doing it also, there will also be test running, and you have to be patient. You know, you should not, people should not be afraid of making mistakes.
Right.
You know,
you
test run to minimize the cost. And there are trials, tests and trials, and at the end of the journey, there will be light. And I tell people nowadays that they have to be multi-skilled, you know, multi-skilled. And I love the generation of today. They will just, after the university days, they will go and learn hairdressing, makeup, this and that, so that, you know, they can actually have some things in addition. Why they are test running, and that they actually need, you know, like I mentioned, once you have the vision, you have prayed about, God has given you vision, you have an initiative of what to do, the business you are to do, then you just give it a trial, and after that is test run, before you launch it out, you have a restricted target market, you know, to try it, how it works, and after that, you have a go, and it comes about, you know, investment too, you know. It's difficult to know, to put 1 + 1 and tell you it is true. It is true. What is happening in today's business?
Right.
People do hijack, you know, feasibility studies.
Right.
You tell them this is something that is good. They downplay you.
Right.
After a while, then they go
bring it
back. You see that thing they have downplayed, have transformed, has come up somewhere along the line in life. So you need. That was what I was sharing with somebody. You need to defend that. I don't know if it is practicable in this part of the world to trademark, you know, products, but it works. After that trademark, you know that somebody else, because you are convinced about that particular project, you can actually protect it and make sure that you guide it jealously. And then now going to funding. After the test run and trial, you go to real funding. The issue of funding, that is God's grace. Maybe if you approach some, what do we call these smaller
finance sources,
there are finance companies here and there. I pray, I believe God will grant our youth, you know, the grace for favor. I just grace for favor, and that is it. Because when in times of funding, it's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
It is a difficult thing. Like I said in my own case, I mean, rising and falling, and it's the grace of God that made it happen.
Right. So if you're out there and you want to send us questions, if you have comments, anything that can enrich this discourse, you're free to send in your comments, make your calls. We're waiting for you. I've just heard a 5-minute masterclass on how to set up a business, and if you missed it, if you missed anything, don't miss that. I mean, that I think was a classic distilled initiative on how you really need to approach starting a business. And I think it's valid not just for new businesses, but even for an older generation who perhaps have actually already started a business. And you know, the Nigerian environment is a really testing and extremely competitive one for many reasons, many different reasons. And so whether you're an old company or you're a new company, whether you're a young entrepreneur and you're just trying to get into a particular market space or niche, I think those points are extremely valid. I think for many people, prototyping, idealization is not something that has been as ingrained as it ought to be. But it's really the place to start.
Exactly.
And particularly in an age where the turnover in terms of both products, ideas, is as fast as yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really important.
Very,
Well,
very challenging.
I think if you have picked up anything from that last session, is that God will give vision and He will give inspiration. And I think it's key for us to understand that probably is the first step and one of the most important steps for us to succeed.
Yeah.
If there are no questions, I'm going to go on to what I would say is close to the last set of questions that I have. Yes, but I understand that there is a question, so I'd like us to take that now.
Okay, this is from a young man. Say, what are the difficulties you faced when starting your business, and how were you able to overcome it? Was funding ever an issue? That's the second question. Then, third question, what are the pitfalls you think entrepreneurs of this age are facing, and what do you think is a likely way to approach it?
I guess we've kind of treated some of this before, but I think it's good to maybe rehash.
Yeah, but okay. There are always challenges. I mean, even business of the old and of today, there are always challenges. There are issues that, for example, you mentioned about, let me quickly talk about, you mentioned about funding.
Funding, yeah.
Funding is very, very critical. And in this part of the world, before you get accepted, before an institution can say, oh, that's a good idea, I would like to support of that, is quite very, 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 very difficult. And in my own case, the survival strategy was that God used members of my family to set the pace, initially. And that really helped me, to stand, to get off the ground. And with that, I was now able to, to approach banks. When you approach a bank, the next thing the immediate thing you hear is collateral. You have to use property or somebody else's property who will want to stand in to say that's a means of guarantee. Of course, there's no free fund any part of the world. Even if you go to this private financing company too, normally you have an order for a particular product. They will give you the fund, but they take over the business from you. That is the truth, because you don't have the money. And my people will say you have idea. You don't have money. You say you have idea. So if you have money, if you have idea, and you don't have money, the possibility of taking the business, what they do is, oh, you can sell this product. You have PO from a reliable company. They take the order from you, fund it, domicile the product. Of course, domicile the sale. That is, when you have supplied, now you have to be paid. You pay directly into the account. Freezing out. It's like, even though you share the profits at the end of the day, but the truth is that because you don't have money, you have to give it in. You have to, maybe after a while, you'll be able to stand. Usually, everyone, I went through the same thing. I did all that trial and error, have to work. Somebody else take the gain until God, gave my family, opportunities to build houses. And we're actually using the houses as collateral. And that is the truth. So apart from that, I said grace, God grace upon, my suppliers. Who believe in me with sincerity of heart, believing in me as a Christian, believing in me that I've said it, and God has been helping me to fulfill my promises. They are always there to help me out, even where the banks cannot do everything. At times, when you have to source funds, it is subject to the bank's assessment of
Right.
your property. The property may be worth 50 million naira. They may say, oh, they cannot give you more than 20 million. You can understand. So when you have bigger project, what do you expect?
Right.
So that is where God brought my way. My foreign partners
Right.
who will say, oh, you have an order for that. What can we do to help you? And that is most times, free interest. For some do when they feel this risk is high.
Hi.
Maybe if you cannot pay back within 30 days, you are asking for 60, 90 days,
Mhm.
they will factor the interest.
Same.
And that is it. But it's much more better than to lose the
much more.
business.
Right.
That is it. So, the grace of the blessing of God to build houses, to build, to have something as collateral, or somebody in there is ready to stand in for you. And of course, getting help where it seems to people that there won't come any help. We are serving the God of possibles, and that is God. It's God has made the difference. That has been my story.
Another question.
Yes, please.
Where is the human factor in terms of help and assistance in the prosperity or growth of our businesses? That's That's a question. There are other ones coming in. Do you want to take that, or we should?
We say the human factor. I'm trying to
Situate that in the
figure
context
out
of
the human factor. The originator, of course, if you are the one having the business, you are the principal figure, bringing the business. It then depends on what is available around you. Maybe I didn't get the question quite right, but when you talk of human factor, are you saying people that will be involved in doing that business or getting things done, or you are talking of the attribute of the person himself, that person's disposition
Right.
as to that business? I find it, I'm not sure I've answered the question, but maybe if the question can be asked in a different...
I think it needs to be rephrased
Yes.
so that it's a bit
exactly.
clearer.
When you say who the human factor,
Should I do that?
Yeah.
Now there's a question. He said, please, I want to know your view regarding the need to tip people to get contract from the government, or even to get your money for already completed jobs. This is not right, but one may not get contract if you don't do it. Please
Thank you.
enlighten us.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question.
The other person is calling from UK. We'll bring him up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a very good question. Every business, experiences that. We do experience that from time to time. It's quite difficult to do business with the government, like I said. But I prefer not to sell my birthright. I prefer not to sell my birthright than to lose that business. We have had occasions, like I said, we approach so many companies, but you switch sayers, and they will tell you, this is a very good product, we'll get back to you. You call and call and call and call, all you need, because you want the business done, right? But when they see your countenance, they will either ask somebody else to come and buy from you. That has been our experience. They will see the countenance, they will throw some jabs, I'll say jabs to you, some words, like, corruptive words, to say, oh, this product, what if we pay X amount, more than that price? We'll tell them, to the God has been helping us. Look, this is our product. This is our price. We have integrity to protect. We are under the manufacturer who says this is the price to you, and we agree on those prices. If you want to buy a product and resell, there's no problem about that. You can do that. Immediately they saw your countenance, they will turn back, and if God says they need that product, they will
Yes,
come,
sir.
like I said, they will come in different forms. This either send somebody else to come and buy from you
Right.
and perpetuate whatever they want to do.
Right.
That has been
Yeah,
the
experience.
practice. But we put our
Right,
feet
that's
in
it.
the ground.
The line.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Reverend Oguyemi, please come up.
Okay, my question is if you
Please identify yourself.
yourself in business and then you give money to a supplier and eventually the supplier did not supply the product and you are at a fix, what can you do? What can you do as a entrepreneur? Or in a situation where you lost and then you want to come back, how can you come back to your business?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that question? We didn't
Okay.
quite get the initial question.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, my name is Joseph Olubenga Oguyemi.
All right, sir. Go ahead with your question. Please go ahead with your question.
Because it was
Yeah, and
Okay, I've heard the question. Okay.
okay. It was saying that if you have to supply a product and that that person did not deliver, and I don't understand, because if we are the supplier,
right.
we won't
Give it to a
claim
third
what we
party.
cannot. In fact, when people come to us to say, can you do this? If it is outside the scope of my business, I don't do it. I don't do it, no matter how attractive it may be. So, and when say people buy products,
You lost. Come back. What can you do to come back to your business?
Please say, take it again so that they can take you, sir.
Started the business, and you've lost
Okay,
money.
I said as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you lost your investment, and then how can you come back to the business again? What are the steps can you take to get back to your business?
Okay.
well, when you lost your business, maybe could it be through a wrong, maybe, I don't know. I'm just picturing how somebody can lose, a business. Maybe you put money in a business and at the end of the day, that business did not survive. And to put money back. There's always a risk factor in business.
Yes, there is.
There's always a risk factor. And they said when the going gets tough, the tough
The
gets
get
going. The issue is that you need to develop shock absorber in doing business.
Shock absorber.
It's shock absorber, because that's why I said you don't plunge money into a business. That's why I mentioned the issue of test running.
Yes.
Have a small target audience, try it, and if it works, and if the demand increases, you now know that yes, you are at it. But you don't just put so much money in a business, and at the end of the day, you just discover that it's not working. I don't think there's wisdom in that. So, and if you lost money, if you are not defrauded, it means that probably by error, you defrauded yourself, and you have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
That is what I feel, because you cannot attribute that failure to someone else. It is your mistake, and you have to go back to the drawing board again. So that would be a big lesson to say that, once beaten, twice shy. Next time you are going to another business, you don't want to repeat the same error again. You want to be circumspect.
And I think it's important also to say, sir, that trial, prototyping, testing is key, in businesses these days. You literally should be creating small labs where you can test the product and ensure that it actually does meet your requirements before you go into a full launch. There are courses on prototyping these days, design thinking, idealization, that will enable you to minimize your costs by creating smaller prototypes that kind of test before you put in all your money.
Yeah.
So I think you're spot on in terms of And the other thing is that in business, you will make mistakes. It's rare that every business hits it 100% every time.
No,
it doesn't happen.
There always the try and error.
It does not happen.
You know, falling and rising.
Every mistake is a lesson.
Definitely.
About how not to do it and how you should aim to find a way that does it and does it efficiently and does it profitably too.
Yes.
So keep trying, but prototype, test, ensure that your product, your service is functional and acceptable to a smaller group of people before you actually put in all the money that's required for a full launch. And I think that's important.
Okay.
There's another question. Say, good morning, sir. I really enjoyed your session. My question is, how can a young entrepreneur deal with information overload in the area he wants to specialize?
When you talk information overload, that is process of sifting. It's like you want to, it's like in the process of, you want to eat beans. You know, you have to separate the shaft from the product itself. So you go through the process, dislodge the feathers, and before you get to the main product. I think if you're asking about information overloading, it's like somebody is being consumed by opportunities. And it's like, where do I go from here? That's why I'm saying that it's good to covet good things. Yeah, people do covet good things. But be sure that you are not that person. Because you are not the same thing. You know, God has created us as, you know, his own, after his own image. But the truth is that nobody shares your own fingerprint. Your fingerprint is not the same as the other. So when people are doing things and you want to do likewise, you need to go through the process of sifting. Use opportunities of what you have already seen to decide on what you can do to single you out. Of course, to have your own brand name. And that is the process. You cannot use all the information at the same time. In fact, you get to point of confusion. So you need to separate, you know, original from fake. From fake information. And that is, you know, the process of taking pains, all the patience to get to the nitty-gritty.
And I think it's important also to add that we do live in an age where information is left, right, center, up, down, and you need to be focused. And there are times that focus essentially means you block out all the other information once you have settled with a definite path for you to go. Again, I think it's important, as our guest has said, to focus on the opportunities. And once you have hit home on an opportunity, you need to take time to develop it, delve into it, and flesh it out until you're comfortable with that. And once that's done, obviously, you need to keep on track and follow through with that. I'm going to go on to, I would say, my last set of questions for you. And it drills and it talks about family and how family has been an influence.
There's a question. He said, why is it difficult for entrepreneurs to mentor young people, to teach and get them established in similar fields? Now, why is it so difficult that entrepreneurs to mentor younger people, to establish them, to teach and get them established in similar fields?
Okay, this probably will be our last question. So
yeah, thank you very much. I don't see that nobody knows it all. Nobody knows it all. But let me use my own example. I've had people that had worked with me in the past, and most times they won't tell me. They pull out, and I prayed for them. But I discovered that end up, doing the business I'm doing. Look, nobody has monopoly of knowledge. Somebody can do it better. I've had people, those people, I'm sure some of them will be witnesses to this message, that how I've always also used them. I mean, God has used me even to put them on track. I even gave them money to start. They will come to me to buy the product and resell. I've had cases like that. There are 3 people that had worked with me. And they still come back to me to ask for counsel. And people will say, why counseling somebody on the same thing? I said, if they don't do it, somebody else will do it. And that somebody else will do it better. Why can't we, God has brought us together. We can, share ideas. We can have common viewpoints. At the end of the day, God will give us, inspiration. And somebody can do it better. I don't see that as a threat. And I thank God some of them, are still in this Lagos doing the same business and surviving. And also, up to now, we're still sharing. We're still sharing information. I don't know why some people, I don't know. But there are also legal points, the legal point there. Where I did some law up to a point. I'm sure the lawyers will not be frightened with this. There's always what we call restraint of trade. Restraint of trade. If you learn under me and you want to set up business, the law says that you should not establish within a particular range.
Ranges.
You cannot put up your business in the same street like me.
Right.
The law forbids that. So the world is a big place. If I'm here and you want to move, I'm in Ikeja, you want to move to Victoria Island, what stops you? I think that is intended that you will not be sharing the same customers that you're, because you have worked. But in the real sense, I don't see it as a problem. If it happens, it means that there's a missing point somewhere. It means that I've not done something well. That will be my challenge. But some people may have that problem. But to the glory of God, I don't have it. I don't have it. I'm sorry if some people do it.
Right. Well, I agree with you, sir, because obviously not everybody sits in that mold of not wanting to mentor people in their own sector. There are many Christian mentors across many sectors and many industries. So if you try one and it doesn't work, I suggest you try another and keep trying until you find one that is willing to mentor. I think there are many good people out there who realize that increase comes from the Lord. And so it's really not a matter of hoarding information and experience.
Monopoly of knowledge.
So there are people who will give you that opportunity to learn with and for them. So I was saying that I'd like to take a look at this picture.
Okay.
How has, in your own case, how has family influenced your business?
Well, my immediate family, of course, my wife and the children. But I just thank God that God gave me the bone of my bone, the flesh of my flesh. And I did not marry somebody else's wife. And I have a reason for saying that. The woman God gave to me, length and breadth. In fact, when she retired from her place of work, she brought the seed and brought it into the business.
Wow.
So, and of course, we've been in it together. If we want to employ, we do the interview together, even though it's not in the same line with me. But I've discovered that the more you get, women are good managers. The more you look, the more you see in them.
Right.
The more I challenge, the more I involve her, the more I see even some technicalities that I don't possess. Like God has helped us now that, the areas that, as they say, your best half. There are ways, no one is complete. That's why God has brought them to fulfill, that purpose. Now, I always discover that most of the projects we do, I don't care about, once my wife is there, building project. I mean, to the glory of God, to God be all the glory. We have some building projects, only to realize that my wife turned to be a builder or an architect. She can read. She's a retired nurse. But she can read, me, I can't factor that. She can read meanings, she can read architectural drawings, she can, I wanted to start with the quantity surveyor sometimes. I wanted to build the first house. And the quantity surveyor came to me and brought 48 million naira. My wife said, wow. My wife went into the field, began to buy the materials herself. Lo and behold, we saved 25%, 20 or 30%. And we could also invest that in another project.
Right.
What I'm saying in essence that I really thank God. Prayers, our prayer life, prayers has made all the difference. You know, support, understanding, sharing views together, discussing about the issues before taking decisions. That just has been. And I just thank God for that. I have all the support. I have, you know, the understanding. And when it falls short, you can understand. We're also in it together. At times, some people are just whispering to me. Somebody asked me a question sometimes. He said, the rich also cry. Well, I'm not saying I'm rich, but I'm rich through Christ. But I'm saying that when that person was saying that thing, they say, the rich also cry. I said, look, the foundation of wealth, they say, is dirty. That is the way people in the world do it. That dirty means that rough. To me, a rough road. Today, some people may build the house, may not live there because the foundation is rough.
Right.
But the foundation I'm talking about is the foundation of trial and error, rising and falling. And that has permeated one's life. If you don't fall, you can't stand.
Yeah.
And I love that word. I still remember. There's somebody who was in our house, lived in our house when I was very, very young. He used to put a caption on his doorstep. And you know what it reads? He said, the downfall of a man is not the end of his life. I read it. At that time, I just read it. Like I said, in the future, it began to unfold. The fall of a man is not the end. I didn't realize that the issue of rising and falling. You fall, the more you fall, you rise again. And you have to divide. Once you fall, don't be afraid of standing again.
Just button your
Let the
shirt.
Lord strengthen you, button your shirt, develop shock and sober. This time around, I'm not going to fall.
Right.
And you can be strengthened through prayers. And God will. Yes.
People have lost business opportunities through doctoring of proposals to offer job chances to their favorites. Perhaps people who will share profit with them, especially within the government. What is your take on this? That's first. Then I think the second one is just a comment. And a young man, he said it is obvious from this program, SARS, that mentorship is very key in helping upcoming entrepreneurs succeed. I think it is key that an entrepreneurial mentorship team be created to help upcoming entrepreneurs learn from people who have gone ahead. And he said thank you and God bless you for this program.
Thank you. The first one, I think about, the Bible says we should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. We have to be very careful. People that you share the same vision, make sure that there are people that also fear God. Otherwise, they can take you for a ride and they can use their privileged position to take the business from you. It's not as easy as it is said, because when somebody is in need and he said, I'm just desperate. I'm just desperate to get this thing done. But you should be ready at the other end that when it turns to be something else, you have to be prepared for it. It is not easy to involve people who will not be in control of the business, especially funding. If you don't have money, and you want somebody else to fund you, and I said, you dictate the tune, dictate the piper. Somebody has money, you say you have idea. So it is money that you take over the idea, because the idea cannot work on its own without the money to move it. So you have to be prayerful, make sure that you are on the same page on a spiritual level with that person. If it is otherwise, I'm sorry. I don't have any advice to give. And that is the problem. Because you'll be at the mercy of that person. It's a problem. So then the other one, the issue of mentorship. I heard about people who have the problem of mentorship. Mentorship, you know, I say mentor and the mentee. You see, when you talk of mentorship, of course, the person that will mentor you, you must hold that person to an extent. Maybe somebody you look up onto. And a lot of things happen underground when you look up to somebody, and who is that person? So, I prefer Christian mentors because somebody that will come to your level and understand you for who you are. Somebody that can take that idea from the ground and take it up to germinate with you. That person must be a God-fearing person. That person, and if he buys into that idea, I'm sure he will be all out to do whatever he can do to help you. God has brought people different ways to be instrument of help. But I want to add that whoever is helped must not also relax. Because if you are helped, you are gaining some experiences from that person. You are learning from that person. And you'll be thinking of standing on your own sooner or later. So that help will not be endless. Because if it is, definitely something else will creep into it, which you may find difficult to handle.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think we have come to pretty much the end of this session. I'd like to say for the last comment that this actually is a mentoring program. This session is a session that I believe if you have watched and you've taken notes, you actually would have picked up several mentorship lessons that you can use practically in your business and the entrepreneurship opportunities that you may be able to take advantage of. But there are many ways to be mentored. In our very open learning world these days, there are lots of resources that will allow you to connect with people and to draw from their wealth of experience and particularly their mistakes. That's a vital way of growing. And I think while physical mentorships and connections are possible, I think the drive of a mentee will lead him or her into finding out how he can connect with different mentors at many different levels. Hallelujah. So we're going to wrap everything up to a close. We've had such a good time that we've exceeded our time, which is fantastic. But we really must close. I want to thank everybody who has watched. We want to thank you if you've made a comment, you sent a contribution. We thank you for the call that came all the way from the UK. And we hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed and you have learned some valuable lessons from our session today. We will be back with several other entrepreneurship series, programs and sessions. So keep a watch on the social media handles that's scrolling now or will scroll before the end of this episode. Thank you very much for your time. We thoroughly enjoyed having you with us. And I'd like to thank Mr. Tunde Odumosu, the CEO of Open Learning Associates, who's spent quality time sharing with us his experiences, his life experiences, and they're awesome, absolutely awesome. If you missed this and you're catching it late, you should watch the rest of the tape. You should go back and actually just pick it up. I think you'll learn a whole lot. So once again, thank you very much for joining us on this health and wellness series. This is the entrepreneurship series, and we do hope we'll be back with another session really soon. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.